I wanted to share my weight loss journey. I wanted to build a community. Like that was what my why is. And people are going to be able to spot bullshit pretty quickly. So if you're not authentic, if you're not coming from an authentic place and you're just like, click the link to shop because I told you to, and I'm pretty, so listen to me. No one's going to. So like, be yourself, be authentic, have a good reason for why you want to share these things.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Nichols and Dimes show. I'm your host, Chris Nichols. Today, our guest is Phoebe Davis. Phoebe is a model, bodybuilder, social media marketing expert, and starred on the reality TV series called Cosmic Love with Amazon Prime. This was a really fascinating conversation about social media marketing and personal branding in general. We dive into specific tactics and strategies that Phoebe has used throughout her career, running her own social media marketing agency, also in building her personal brand. We talk about Phoebe's background and her signature weight loss story that got her into bodybuilding, what motivated her to do that, and then how she got into modeling. We also dive into the modeling industry and the difference between being represented by an agency or modeling independently. We also talk about the power of documenting personal experiences, how to differentiate yourself as an influencer, and the power of networking. This podcast is brought to you by Legacy Capsule. Legacy Capsule is a custom video interview or a time capsule for yourself or a loved one in your family to document who this person is, their perspectives, how they see the world, and experiences they've had for your family and loved ones to cherish forever. For other sponsors and affiliates, please check out the links in the description. Now, please enjoy this episode with Phoebe Davis. Phoebe Davis.
Hello.
What's going on?
Not much. Welcome to my home.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
The setup worked out perfectly.
Honestly, it's literally perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the lighting's actually great. We got these two bad boys.
I know. Who would have thought? A glorified studio.
For real. Well, we've been talking about doing this for a while, but you always seem to be at a new music festival, so it's hard to pin you down.
You know what? Why did you have to call me out like that? It's festival season, so it's been a busy month.
It is.
Yep. I did have my mom come visit me, so
okay. Nice little break in between, stage shows, Coachella, and everything else, EDC tomorrow.
Yes, and it was a wonderful break. I needed it.
Good. You guys go out to a nice dinner or something?
Yeah. So she came the week before Mother's Day, so I actually took her to a lovely sushi restaurant and had like a little early Mother's Day dinner with her.
Oh, perfect. Mm-hmm. That's right. It was just Mother's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah. Shout out to all the Mother's Days. I actually just did a Mother's Day podcast last week.
Oh, did
with
you?
My mom. Yeah. It was like a.
So she was a guest?
Yeah, she was a guest, but it was like a promotion for my business, Legacy Capsule, which is It's like a custom video interview as a service for someone in your family.
Okay, amazing.
So it's like a time capsule, life story on camera type thing.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
I want to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay.
I'm very much like figuring out what the product is now and, very customized right now. So if somebody wants me to make a documentary, then I'll do that.
Okay. So. Not to ramble, but I saw a video on Instagram of somebody who did that. Mm-hmm. And they were like, they list off a whole bunch of questions that you should ask your parent or loved one, so that eventually when that day comes, they have all of these incredible things to like pass on this legacy.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was really cool.
That's exactly
I love
the point.
that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Hell yeah. Well, I appreciate your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Around it. Well, on that note, my podcast, Nichols and Dimes Show, it's about entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to talk about your journey with you from a life standpoint and entrepreneurial career standpoint. But I do want to start off with the way we met. I thought it was hilarious. And it was actually what inspired me to want to do this podcast with you, because we ran into each other at a bar in downtown San Diego.
We sure did.
Yep. And we took a field trip to a table and had a whole conversation, which frankly could have been a whole podcast.
It honestly was. We talked about so many different things.
Yeah. But honestly, a lot of that had a lot of overlap with what you do with your marketing work, your social media and branding work. And we talked about psychology around that. And we talked about some cosmetic stuff, which was super interesting. And, recently I just decided to shave my head completely.
Looks
right?
great.
Thank you.
Proud of you for making that choice.
Thank you. And at the time when I met you, I was kind of doing the Charlie Brown hang on,
Yeah, you were like, oh, do I let it go? How do I commit to one way or the other? Yeah. And I was like, not that I was trying to convince you to get hair plugs by any means, but I had just worked with a client who that is his business. So it was very fresh, top of mind.
Yeah.
Everything that him and I had just spoken about. So I was telling you about the psychology of like how people interpret someone who's bald. But I think because you have a beard, it balances it out. So it's a balance.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it looks great.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's been a interesting journey or years. It was a conversation. And so we talked about the debate of getting a hair transplant or shaving your head. And I'm just recently started trying this, and I'm liking it. So we'll see what happens in the future. But it was an interesting conversation from a philosophical or psychological standpoint, and how one can document a journey either way. Right. Like I literally did a podcast about shaving my head a few weeks ago.
Yeah, which is good because didn't I tell you if you were going to do plugs or a hair transplant, you should document that journey.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I want to talk about a lot of the different ways we can do this. I think that's going to be a bigger focus in this conversation because it's fascinating and clearly your stuff when it comes to social media branding and then specifically the ways you can document your journey and be genuine about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think people are for some reason ashamed to share any type of cosmetic procedure or anything like that because they don't want others to judge them. It's all about perception and being scared of judgment. But everybody wants to know the truth. So if you can be that person and shine that light on the journey, your reasonings why, the before and the after, people want that authenticity. They want that storytelling and that messaging because chances are it's gonna hit home for somebody, and we're all human, so we have a lot of similar thought processes. So that's kind of the path that I went down when I chose to get my breasts done last year. And I was fortunate enough to actually partner with La Jolla Cosmetic Surgery Center, Dr. Salazar, shout out to you. We partnered together to document my entire journey from my very first consultation to my pre-op to the actual operation day to post-op and I have my 6 month and my yearly. I just had my 1 year post-surgery appointment, but I have gotten really amazing feedback on being so open and authentic in that whole process because a lot of women had similar body types to me prior to getting my surgery done. And they're like, I've been really wanting to do it. How big did you go? Blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot that I didn't even know going into that surgery until I went through that process of like, it's actually unique to every single body. So yeah, just being open and authentic about your journey. And that's the whole basis of building a brand, right? Is authenticity, especially if you yourself are the brand and you're selling yourself.
Yeah, I love the way you describe that. And was that content, the documentation of that surgery, did they use it for their marketing purposes on their website, for example, or like what did they do with that content? Yeah,
so we did a few different things. They filmed the entire thing. We did multiple interviews. I did like a full testimonial, and then I actually went on their podcast. I did 3 different podcast episodes where I was interviewed about my experience, and then I actually interviewed my surgeon, and then I interviewed his charge nurse. Because throughout that process, I got so close with them and just trusted them immensely and wanted to shine the spotlight on them for everything that they did for me.
Very cool. Well, that's awesome. I want to come back to this a little bit later about different strategies of social media, but let's give the audience a little bit of context about you.
Okay.
And your life journey. And you've been involved in bodybuilding and modeling. You were involved in a Amazon Prime Video show called Cosmic Love, right? Mm-hmm. And
yes. Sure was.
I'm sure it sounds like you got a couple things to say about it. So
we'll get there.
Okay, we'll get there. But let's start off with the big story that kind of defined how you usually start these podcasts you do.
Okay.
Right? So tell us about your childhood. What were you like? You grew up in Spokane, Washington.
Yes.
What were you like? What was going through your head at that point? What was your family and social situation like?
So growing up, I was a heavier kid and I was bullied pretty much all through elementary, middle school, high school, not so much in college, but like, I don't know, not so much in college, but a little bit here and there.
The personality made up for it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I was the funny fat friend. And I also did musical theater growing up. So like I was just a heavy target, no pun intended. But yeah, so I struggled with my weight and I didn't grow up playing sports. I mean, I played a little bit here and there, but the theater was my, like, singing and musicals was my after school activity. And when I was in college, that was like the first time I had a real boyfriend. And he made a comment to me right when we very first started dating, and I will never forget this. He said, "You know, Phoebe, you'd be so much hotter if you just lost some weight." And that was the first real relationship I was ever in. And like, he played football and he in my mind was like super hot at the time, whatever. So at the time, I hope he's not watching this. But that I'll never forget that comment, because I was like, we're adults and like, that's so insulting. And also something switched in my brain where it was like, I don't ever want to let somebody else's words like affect me in that way. But it's funny because it was like, with any major lifestyle change, you have to have emotions tied to it. Revenge body, was it? I don't know. But like, more of like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And that's kind of been the fuel to my fire throughout my big weight loss transformation years and competing, was that I was told so much as a young child and all through my, teen years and even in my early 20s that like, you're not directly, you're the funny fat friend, but like, this is who you are. And I was like, no one else gets to tell me what I want to be. And in addition to that, I was so sick of feeling like I was settling. I was uncomfortable in my own body, and I just was like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. And I decided to really commit to it and enter into my very first NPC bikini competition. So this was in 2019. I did my first competition and I ended up losing 50 pounds over the course of 7 months.
Wow. 7 months.
Yeah, it was quick. And I won my competition. So that year changed everything for me, because I have never seen myself be able to have that much discipline. There was like so much untapped potential that I was like, holy shit, I'm actually like, if I can do this and commit to something and be so disciplined, what else can I do? So it just kind of blew the lid off of like, all these preconceived notions I had about myself, and from the narrative that was fed to me my whole life. Not from my family. My family's great and was very supportive, but just from like peers.
Sure.
So yeah, it just kind of changed everything. And at that time, to circle back into the marketing thing, my degree in college was in communications. So my first job, this was like right when social media marketing was just taking off in 2015. And I decided like, okay, let's try social media marketing out, and just kind of bullshitted my way through an interview for a social media coordinator at this like most likely a tax write-off and random ass network marketing company.
Sure.
And it was such a hands-off job. I had no clue what I was doing, but I had the time and the freedom in those hours to teach myself. So I took that initiative this is also prior to the competing, but I taught myself everything that I needed to know in order to get a better social media marketing role. So when I competed in 2019, I had already had a marketing background from doing social media marketing in the corporate world, that when I won this show and won this competition and changed my life, I was like, I can do anything. So I was like, screw corporate. I'm starting my own agency.
Wow.
That's when I started up my own marketing agency, left the corporate world. And I also got signed as a model. And so that was the year that everything was like, all the doors just like flew open.
2019. Right before good old 2020.
Right before COVID. Yes. Yes.
Wow. So that's a lot. That's a lot of confidence boosters that you just listed right there.
Yes.
You went from, you made a massive body transformation, and so you looked like way better. You won a competition, regardless of how you look, even though that's what it was about. You won a competition that you worked your ass off for and you trained for. And then that gave you this level of confidence that you hadn't ever experienced before.
Yeah.
To then apply to your career. And so you went and said, I'm going to do my own thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Well, I feel like with any type of transformation, especially a physical one, it's so mental too. And so you're pushing yourself beyond all these limits and the discipline that you choose, because discipline is a choice versus motivation.
Right.
So it's just wild to see all the different areas in your life change with it, because your mindset changes.
Yeah. Wow. So what was that first step then into the entrepreneurial world?
So
of course you had modeling stuff going on, right?
Yes.
Yep. So there it sounds like, let me just preface this a little better. So you had some modeling opportunities. I'm sure the bodybuilding stuff probably you make some money off that. It kind of overlaps with modeling, I feel like.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah. So I started my account, Flexing Phoebes, in 2016. So I had my account a few years prior to competing, and I built that. I made that account. It was actually originally just supposed to be an extension of my blog. I started a blog, a fitness blog. It was solely for the purpose of creating a community of like-minded people who were also on a similar journey, or just so I could start consuming healthy and fitness related content.
Got it.
That was the whole purpose behind Flexing Phoebes. And so as I stayed very consistent with that, but in 2019, when I competed and lost the weight, I documented that whole journey.
The whole thing. Wow.
And that definitely helped me build a little bit of a following. Yeah, so that's kind of where the brand started. And I was able to leave my corporate job and start up my own agency because I was so well connected in the fitness community in Scottsdale, where I was living at the time, that I was able to sign them as clients for marketing, and leave corporate and just pour everything into those marketing clients and continuing to build my Flexing Phoebes brand.
So you were building out the Instagram. Primarily, was it Instagram? What other platforms were you focused on for your personal content?
Instagram was the primary. I shifted to TikTok during COVID because everybody and their mother downloaded TikTok.
Sure.
But those are my two primary platforms.
Okay. And what kind of work were you doing for clients? Were you advising them on how they should build out a plan, or were you actually outsourcing the operational work of posting and getting pictures taken? Describe that a little bit.
Yeah. So I was a one-woman agency. I did everything from the content creation, social media strategy, branding, all of the community management, the posting, scheduling. So I was doing everything.
All of it.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is like the direction you want this to go. So you can take this out if you want. But after reaching such a crazy peak that year, what goes up must come down eventually. So I learned some very, very hard entrepreneurial lessons that year.
That's exactly where I wanted to go.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. But yeah, so I hit this crazy peak, and shortly after kind of took a nosedive because I had all of this newfound discipline for health and fitness, but I had never had to flex that muscle in a business way because I worked in a corporate structure. So I was like, I didn't have to hold myself to certain standards because other people were kind of doing that for me within that structure. So I wasted a lot of time. And also, after competing, anyone who's done fitness competitions can most definitely relate to this. Body dysmorphia will eat you alive afterwards. Hopefully not, but it did for me. And so I learned a lot of really difficult lessons that period about my relationship with food and relationship to myself and everything. So I was in a dark place from competing. I couldn't give my all to my business. So I still have that business, but in this particular year, I ended up losing my clients because I overpromised and couldn't deliver. And for some reason just was too scared at that point to outsource because I think I had so much pride and ego from that year. So I was like, it's got to be me to do it all. But then I wasn't the one doing it. So I ended up getting a part-time job at a gym. Through that, met my best friends in the entire world. So God always has a plan. And met new clients who helped me propel my business and be able to move to California.
Wow. Since you just shared all that, this is a question I usually ask towards the end of these conversations, but I like to understand, what is the biggest challenge you've experienced? It can be general or specific in your entrepreneurial journey. And just given all the other stuff, we have more to talk about, of course, in your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
But since you talk about that moment in time, how would you describe your biggest challenge overall in the journey of being an entrepreneur? Like, what has been the biggest lesson there?
I think really being honest with yourself about how much you can actually fit into your plate, how much you can realistically handle on your own. I know a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs who have their own businesses who are so scared to outsource because they're perfectionists or, want everything to look a certain way and they have to have their hands in everything. But that ultimately it can become your downfall because if you overpromise and underdeliver, you've just destroyed trust. And that's the last thing you want to do with one of your clients, especially when they're paying for your bills and your livelihood. So I definitely had to learn how to give realistic expectations, not only with myself, but to the client, and learn to outsource and figure out what can I delegate.
Yeah, that's such a golden answer. And it's a topic that comes up a lot on this podcast because so many entrepreneurs, that's generally one of the hardest things to start doing is to delegate because we're control freaks.
Yeah.
A lot of us, right? We're designed a certain way. And why do we not want to work for someone? Why do we want to do our own thing? It's because of that. And some people, it comes more naturally than others, but it's a big learning curve to be comfortable putting out the work that you had in mind you were going to do all yourself and getting there. So it's a really good answer, but particularly the part you say about knowing your own limits. What are you capable of getting done? Let's be realistic about what all the shit I can do in a day, right? Because I've struggled with this. I have a list of 10, 20 things on a list, and I'm like, okay, well, I got 3 or 4 of these done today.
Yeah.
Now what?
I deserve a treat.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. But no, thanks for sharing that. So I want to talk a little bit about modeling because we talked about something before this podcast that I thought was very interesting as far as doing modeling where you're assigned to an agency or doing it independently. Could you just share a little bit about the differences of both, your experience with each?
Yes. Okay. So I I originally got signed as a model in 2019, and I didn't really, to be totally honest with you, didn't book a lot of work with them. I was with this particular agency for 2 years. When I moved out to California, we parted ways because they were an Arizona-based agency in Scottsdale. But I've been with 2 different agencies. Another one was in LA I was signed with last year. And all the times in between, I've just independently represented myself. And that's for 2 reasons. One, I have tattoos on my body. And you would think in modeling and in the inclusive environment and society that we have now, that tattoos would be more acceptable. It's not the case for women. Which is bullshit, but it is what it is. So I didn't book a lot through the agencies because of my tattoos. Therefore, I'm not making them money, and it doesn't make sense to keep me on their roster.
Sure. But I think it's important just to be specific about where do you have tattoos, so that a woman maybe with a tattoo and like the hip or just somewhere small, like you actually have a tattoo sleeve on your arm.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So it's interesting. And this is the exact feedback I've gotten from all the agencies is that I'm not fully tatted to be considered a tattoo model, but I'm not a clean slate. So I can't fit into the girl next door.
Interesting.
So I'm just like, what do we do with you type of
that makes
look,
sense.
I guess. But yeah, I would say if you are considering becoming a model and you are not tattooed, and if you want tattoos, wait. Just go all into modeling, be a clean slate, and wait to get tattoos. Small ones, little like small dainty ones or hidden ones, totally fine. But yeah, I have a massive jellyfish on my arm. I have a literal whale on this side, and like, visible ones. So that's definitely something that's held me back as far as the agency world goes. But agencies, I mean, everything is politics, right? Like they pick their favorites and they push them. And so even if you don't have tattoos and you're not a favorite, like they're not going to submit you as often as they are people who they know is going to guarantee the money. So my experience as an independent model has been so much more fulfilling because I can set my own rates. I don't have to give a percentage to anyone unless if I'm, hiring somebody else to help me with whatever's going on or hire an assistant to get behind the scenes footage. But I just have so much more control over the projects I want to do, what I'm submitting myself for, how much I'm getting paid. And really, there's nobody to tell you no unless if you don't get the job. So I've found that modeling independently and representing myself has been far more beneficial in the long run than being represented.
That's interesting, especially the tattoo angle to it. I did not even think of that.
Yeah.
When I was thinking about how we would talk about this topic. But it again is another way of looking at the route of working for someone or working for yourself. And of course, there are pros and cons to each. But what would you say has been the biggest challenge about modeling independently, specifically?
Well, one is I don't have as much access to
opportunities.
Yeah. Because I don't have that agent who's like looking for things for me. I have to be the person to do that. And because I am juggling my marketing agency and my personal brand at the same time, I don't necessarily always dive headfirst into modeling. Like I would never consider myself to be a full-time model.
Yeah, right.
I definitely work in seasons. I got into runway 2 summers ago, and that has been the most incredible experience doing runway modeling versus commercial and print. And that all got started actually because I DM'd a brand on Instagram and developed a relationship with her just from an influencer point of view, nurtured and built that relationship. And then I became the face of her brand, which we then took to LA Swim Week. I grew my relationships with other designers and other models, and then I've walked in almost 30 shows over the past 2 years because
Wow.
of that. Yeah.
Independently. That's extremely impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. And I mean, you're alluding to something that we haven't touched too much on, but it sounds like you're really fucking good at networking.
I love to network. I do. Yeah. I eat that shit up. I do.
And I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm guessing that this skill of yours, your networking, had something to do with you getting onto the Cosmic Love, the show with Amazon. Is that fair? Am I right?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Okay.
So I was approached in 2021 about this new reality show that was coming out, and I had really wanted to do reality TV. I love that shit. I'm not proud of it, but I love it. And it was a dating show, and I was single. Still am single. But obviously the show didn't spoiler. But yeah, they approached me for the show, and there were rounds and rounds and rounds of interviews. And I made it to the final round. They flew me to LA, and I had my in-person interview with all of the executive producers, and it was filmed, and it was like very intense. And because one, I used to be chubby growing up. I'm like, good luck intimidating me at this point.
Oh yeah.
Two, I grew up doing theater and public speaking. So it's like, I love lights, cameras, and I'm a Leo. So LOL that the show is Cosmic Love. It's based on astrology, but
okay. Yeah. I was just going to ask.
Yeah. But I should have been so intimidated, and I just shined.
You outshined.
It was amazing. Like, I had everyone dying laughing. Like, in that moment I was like, God has put me here for a reason. Like, it was too good. So yes, that's how I got my show.
That's awesome. How was that experience? First of all, how many people, if you know, tried out for it or auditioned for it versus how many people were actually on the show? So
there were 20 people total on the show.
10 guys, 10 girls?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I know that there were thousands of people who submitted for this.
Yeah.
But on the show, there were 4 leads. So the show it's a dating show based on astrology, and there were 4 leads that the show follows. Each person represents an element of the zodiac. So there's earth, water, fire, and air. I'm a Leo, so I was cast as the fire sign, the fire element. And then there are 12 single people in the house who came to date us that we were perfectly matched with based on astrology.
Oh, interesting.
So each of us had 4 perfect matches. Well, to get into my experience, the structure of the show, this was the first season of a brand new concept show. It's still on Amazon Prime. If anyone wants to go watch it, don't, but like do, I guess. Let me also preface this by saying I'm so grateful for this opportunity, but the structure of the show was a clusterfuck because all of the single people just like hooked up with each other.
Oh, really?
Because they didn't really keep anyone separate. It was like the 4 of us had our own private rooms, but all the single girls were in one room and single guys were in one room. And they had so much free time to just like mingle and hang out.
Oh, okay. Now I think
like during filming.
Yeah, I misunderstood the structure. So there's 4 of you guys leading, and then were there 16 others left, or was there 20 others? So you said there was 20 total people.
Yeah, so it was 4. Oh, I'm missing people, aren't I?
It might be 24 people.
No, it was 20. So 4.
Okay.
So 16.
Okay, got it.
Yes,
okay,
yes,
cool.
yes, because each of us had 4 people come to date us.
Got it.
Sorry, math is not my forte.
No worries. No, I'm just trying to
SWOT analysis on myself. But
I'm just trying to visualize how this looks.
Yeah,
but
16,
people can watch it.
Yes, 16 singles came in to date us, but we each had 4 perfect matches.
That makes sense.
Anyway, what ended up happening is that my matches hooked up with other people's matches. And
makes for good reality TV.
Yes. I did not find love in the stars. I learned a lot about astrology though. in case you were wondering.
Well, so how about the overall experience of being on a reality show like that with that level of, coverage on you being filmed and I'm sure just like any reality TV, there's people are instigating, like producers are instigating stuff to happen between people so they can get good footage and action, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Did your perception of reality TV change from before to after that experience? Because you said you were a fan of it before.
Yes, 100%. So being in it is a lot different than watching it. I will say, like, going into it, obviously I had a pretty decent understanding of what I was
getting into.
Yeah, to some degree, right? And like when you're in that environment, you are completely disassociated from reality. So they take your phones, they take your computers. You don't even know what time it is. They like cover all the clocks because they just want you fully submerged into this environment. And you have to, because these filming periods are like sometimes only 4 to 6 weeks, they want people to fall in love. So it has to happen on like, anyway, everyone just ends up like trauma bonding with each other at the end of the day. But I will say when I got presented this opportunity, and I had been presented with other show opportunities in the past, I was very, I wanted to look at a few different things to make sure this made sense for myself, for my brand. Is this a good business opportunity? Like, can I monetize this? Yes, obviously I went into it with an open mind, hoping to find love and find like a partner. But you also have to think of it like this is a major platform and I'm going to get to tell my story, especially being a lead on this show. So everything just made sense for me to say yes to this project.
Sure. What came out of it, opportunity-wise? What would you say have been like the, 2 or 3 biggest opportunities that you can point to from being on this show?
I got to do some promo stuff for the show. So we got to do this big Amazon Prime red carpet event. And I got to meet Heidi Klum, which was fun.
Oh, cool.
But like, to be totally honest, not a whole lot. Like we filmed it in fall of 2021 and it didn't come out until summer of 2022.
Oh.
So we had to kind of sit on the secret, and this is pretty normal for reality shows, especially new seasons. So we had to sit on this, and in that time, all of us, like the cast, were texting each other like, are we going to be famous? Like, we're living in this weird 6-8 month period where we're like, are our lives about to change forever? Like, we don't know. Am I going to get recognized driving down the street? Like, it's a total mind fuck. Going from like being a lead on the show and being treated like royalty to like being a peasant every day.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just like going back to real life and then not being able to even talk about it.
Yeah.
So for my particular show, it didn't take off in the ways that we had hoped it would. But regardless, one, I mean, I have the experience that I learned a lot about myself from. And two, I am able to say that I was on an Amazon Prime show, and like, not to say I don't use it for clout by any means, but it is a stepping stone that helps land other opportunities.
Sure,
yeah. Because they can see me on camera and see how I operate.
Yeah. No, that's a big point right there. Very cool. Okay. So that was quite the experience doing that show. I want to come back to marketing, social media stuff, because I imagine after that experience, the show didn't take off as much. You were probably, that became your main thing again, right? Or marketing, social media stuff has been your main thing over the past couple of years? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So could you share a little bit about what you're doing now with social media marketing in general?
Mm-hmm. So I still have my social media marketing agency. Now living in San Diego, I've actually partnered with LMA, which is a one of San Diego's largest advertising agencies, stands for Lavender Marketing and Advertising. So I am contracted as their director of social media, which has been a wonderful experience for me. I've been with them for over a year and a half now, or almost a year and a half. And I will say, when I was working corporate, directly working for these companies, I think the longest I worked for a company was 1 year. Because I was just like, I don't want to be like a slave or a prisoner, fuck the corporate world. But now that like I'm contracted, I'm still my own boss, and I work so much better in that environment where I know I still have the freedom, but I'm also a part of a larger organization. So it just feels way more like a partnership than it does a job, because it is a partnership. And so that's what I'm currently doing. I'm their director of social media. And one thing, I think I've shared this with you over the phone, but I've always had social media marketing to fall back on because that's what my career was. And over the years, as I've picked up new streams of income, my interest level has, it's like a shiny object. It's like a modeling, like I want to go all in on this, but like this is where my income is type of thing. So that's been very consistent for me over the past like 5 years, is staying with social media marketing because I live it and breathe it and I know it so well, while juggling all these other things where I'm like, maybe one day I'll be this full time or I'll be this full time. So that's something I'm still learning how to figure out. It's prioritizing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Juggling all the different balls. Yeah. So how would you describe your philosophy? We kind of opened up this conversation with this stuff about your social media strategy overall. You're obviously working with clients, whether you're contracted, whether you're doing it yourself or for yourself. I imagine you have a general strategy that you fall back on to scale the value you bring when it comes to social media and creating content and documenting a journey. Do you have a way of describing, you touched on it earlier, right, with documentation and being authentic, but from a business sense, how would you pitch to a potential client the value you bring and your strategy?
So from which perspective? From the perspective of me being an influencer for them, or from the perspective of me running their account and growing their business?
Great question. Both. Let's start with you as an influencer for them.
Okay. So for me, it's all about knowing your worth and knowing your value. There are a bajillion different, and I don't even consider myself a fitness influencer anymore. Once I got into modeling and lifestyle and transitioned out of competing, I kind of turned flexing Phoebes into flexing the mind, body, and the soul, and business too. So it's more like overarching instead of just fitness. But with that being said, there's a million of us out there, right? Like, you can pluck anybody out and anyone can say that they're an influencer. But what sets me apart is my testimony and the way I communicate, the way I create my content, the relationship that I have with my followers, my authenticity. So anybody can technically do it, but no one does it the way that I do it. And I think because of my personality, people are already like really intrigued and want to talk to me more because they don't expect this personality to come out of me.
Yeah. Okay. I like that you said that, because I have a question about that.
Yeah.
How do you show your personality in this content? You obviously have a lot of like great pictures of yourself, right? Model shots and stuff like that. How do you share who you are with your audience? So the tools that I use to do that, stories. I love doing stories. I talk a lot on my stories through storytelling, and I'm very real and vulnerable and raw. And especially during that post-competition period when I was really struggling, I was very open about my body dysmorphia and like how I was struggling in those areas so that I could shine light on it and let people know that there's a dark side to this too, And I've done that with modeling, and runway can be a toxic environment too. I've shed light on that. But also like I have
funny quirks, and there's things that I say that like people just, it becomes like trademarky kind of like, I say this all the time when I record videos. At the end, I'll go, "Okay, love you, bye."
Yeah.
I do it. I don't know where it came from, but I always do that. And like my boss will say that when she calls me, and my like boss will say that. All my friends will be like, "Okay, love you, bye," because I just always say that.
Yeah.
I also grew up singing, so I'll like sing song like all the time, just because it's funny and like no one expects it. So I just do random shit, but it's me. So it's like people are like, okay, this is who she is. She's pretty, but she's kind of crazy.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. Okay. That's a good answer. All right. So the other side of it, for when you're advising clients on how to build their strategy, how do you approach that?
So I will do, like a social media audit for them and do basically a SWOT analysis and figure out what their opportunity areas are. I want to figure out what their goals are. Are you wanting to, I mean, for the most part, people want to drive sales. So, but where is that coming from? And how can social media be another tool in your toolkit? How can we use content that is relevant and trending so that the algorithm knows how to favor it well, but still make it apply to your niche and your industry?
Sure.
So that is strategy is my strategy, essentially. Being able to find something that's trending for a not so sexy business and make it sexy and make it fun. Sexy is a loose term, but you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So yeah, and I'm really good at that. It's fun. Like I'll just as a consumer of content, I'll be scrolling and I'll find things that I can apply to a business that it's a stretch, but like it applies, and then we turn it into real life and then it works. So
for sure. Yeah. I mean, just even since I've started my podcast, I've gotten much more active on social media, on Instagram. And so, I mean, yeah, I can relate to that. The amount of, I call it R&D, but some people might call it scrolling, the reels, right?
but truly,
it's true.
It is. Yeah. Especially once, I mean, you know this, like once you flip into that, okay, I need to be a creator, not a consumer.
Yes.
Once you flip into that mode as you're consuming, it literally becomes work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
Until it's not.
Yeah. If you can find your healthy balance, but that applies to just about anything that you're working on. Well, so with all the stuff we've talked about and where you are today, what would you say is your next big goal with your career, your entrepreneurial pursuits? Is there something that you have your sights on that you really want to accomplish?
That is a great question. I just turned 30. I say just, it was last August. So technically I'm about to turn 31. But
happy late birthday.
Thanks. You're a little late, but it's fine. Or happy early birthday, I guess.
I'm in July, so same boat.
Oh, summer babies.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So now that I'm 30, modeling, I always will love it. The longevity, I don't necessarily know if it's there, which is why I don't pursue it full time. It's also a lot of pressure for me that I put on myself anyway because of my history with competing. So I don't know. I don't know where modeling is going to take me. I don't have these like extravagant dreams of, yes, I do have the dreams of being on the cover of Sports Illustrated swimsuit one day, but I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket. I'll just say that. As far as marketing goes, I want to continue partnering with the agency that I'm with now. I love the relationship I have with them, and I want to help grow their business and continue to oversee that social media department. So I don't know. I'm kind of in this place right now where I am excited to see where God is taking me. I'm being very conscious of being present right now because the past 5 years, I mean, I've only been in San Diego 2.5 years, so I'm still kind of new to this area, but it's just been like constantly, not a chase, but just a constant pursuit of what I can just kind of pull out of my butt, to be honest. Like kind of like, can I do runway? Fuck it. Let's see if I can. And then boom, I can. So it's like, can I do this? So for me, honestly, right now, as far as like the entertainment industry goes, I really want to get back into music because first and foremost, I'm a singer. So I'm starting to do a lot more networking within the music industry, and I would love, because that has longevity forever. So getting into that, I want to start doing some more public speaking, and I just want to push myself in a new way. Modeling will always be there, and I'll continue to do it for sure. Social media will always be a great foundation for me. But now I want to see like what else I can do. You know what I'm saying?
I love it.
Yeah.
And this has been a theme in your story, how you have something that's new and different that comes to mind, and you almost impulsively say, I want to do that and dominate it or conquer it.
Yeah.
You did that with bodybuilding and your first competition, and you did that with stepping out into your social media work and getting on that show. I mean, I love, some people might look at being impulsive as a negative thing, but some people it works pretty damn well. And I think it works well for you.
Yeah. I think it's all about the mentality behind it. I view new challenges like that as opportunities or learning lessons. I don't see it as a failure. When I moved to California, it was never in my mind, like if I don't make it, I failed and I have to move back. It was like, I'll learn some really cool lessons, hopefully meet some cool people, and I'll pivot.
Yeah.
But for me, new opportunities like that don't necessarily scare me. I just know I'm going to learn a lot. And then if I can do it and push past, and like, hell yeah, I just did this. So yeah. That's kind of where my mentality is.
Nice. Well, Phoebe, thanks for sharing all this. You do have a hell of a personality. I can attest to that for what she was saying. She's not just a model saying, I got a personality. You're being real, because that stood out to me when I first met you. And that it was a big reason why I wanted to do this with you, because I knew it was going to be fun. And you cracked me up. So,
well, good. I'm glad.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to share about the story that we didn't touch on?
I guess like my biggest piece of advice in a world where everybody wants to become an influencer. I know I do a lot of other things besides quote unquote influencing, but I would say if you are wanting to pursue a career of a content creator and influencer, you need to understand what your purpose is and what your why is. If it's just to like have freedom and flexibility, that's a perk, but that shouldn't be your main reason. For example, my reason was I wanted to share my weight loss journey. I wanted to build a community. Like that was what my why is. And people are going to be able to spot bullshit pretty quickly. So if you're not authentic, if you're not coming from an authentic place and you're just like click the link to shop because I told you to, and I'm pretty, so listen to me. No one's going to. So like, be yourself, be authentic, have a good reason for why you want to share these things. It's okay if you're passionate about fashion. I'm passionate about fashion. Like, if you're passionate about something, go all in and let that shine through your personality and through the content that you make. Don't be scared to reach out to brands. I've made incredible relationships and had amazing opportunities because I sent a DM. So none of the no's matter, only the yeses do. And you'll never know if you don't ask. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And all that advice, by the way, you positioned it towards influencers, but it completely applies to entrepreneurs, I think, in any area as well.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, Phoebe, is there anyone in your network who you would recommend I have on the Nichols and Dime show? Someone who's working on some sort of entrepreneurial project or an entrepreneur?
Yes, absolutely. So my friend Daniel Hack, I don't know if you know him, but he owns the Mad Beat, which is a juice shop here in Pacific Beach. And he also does a bunch of different things. And he's also into podcasting. I feel like you guys would really hit it off.
Awesome.
Super great guy. Very much into like mindfulness on top of entrepreneurship. So
thank you. Yeah, actually, I think I met him in passing once, but that I'll follow up on getting connected.
Yeah, I'll connect you for sure.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, Phoebe, how can people find you on social media and get to know all the stuff you've been involved in?
So I am at Flexing Phoebes, and Phoebes is spelled Phoebs. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. There's some modeling videos on YouTube if you want to see me walk the runway. They're also on my social media. I have a website as well. It's flexingphoebes.com. I have links in there for discount codes and some random blog posts from throughout the years. I need to probably update that, but yeah.
Awesome. Well, Phoebe, thanks so much for being on the show, sharing your story and talking through these topics with me. It's fascinating stuff, and I appreciate having to get to know you better, and excited to see what you continue to work on and accomplish.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Nichols and Dimes Show. Please hit the subscribe button on YouTube and follow my Instagram page at Nichols and Dimes. The podcast Instagram page is at Nichols and Dimes Show. And please like any of the videos you come across on either platform and leave a comment, leave feedback. It helps me to improve and innovate and to continue to scale and bring more interesting guests to the Nichols and Dimes Show. Thank you all for the support, and we'll see you next time.